The new channel. The new channel. Hashtag TNC now.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel.
Our passion transforms a community that sees all things new.
My name is Karlo Davila and I am streaming from Tagaytay City.
I'm Kathy Solis Davila, streaming live from Tagaytay City as well.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with the King on TNC.
Our episode for today is entitled 2-on-1 with a Bible Scholar. Diba? Kasi Karlo and I were students of the Word. And actually, our guest for today is also a student, both a student and a teacher of the Word. And we are so glad that we have this episode, which is something that's not your usual from our, weekly format, which is to have a sharer discussing their discussing their meditation based on the SOAP method. Karlo, can you tell us more about our guest and paano natin naisip to?
Well, our guest is our professor. We studied before sa Asian Theological Seminary in the Master's
Seminary.
kami ni Kathy. Seminary kami ni Kathy. Pero hindi pa namin na itutuloy, no? Kasi medyo naging busy lang sa trabaho. And I have to say, Kathy, he's our favorite professor. I learned so much about him. Yung subject natin din was hermeneutics. And ang ganda, hermeneutics, guys, it's more of, if we were to explain it layman, parang what do you call this? Deep analysis of the Bible. No, tama, no? Yun ang ng hermeneutics, diba? So, yun, and it was very interesting yung mga inano ni Sir Alvin. So,
this was during the pandemic, diba? Kung yung iba, nagne-Netflix lang. Kami ni Karlo, nag-aral kami. Bible school kami. And yun nga, we got to meet this person that really what sparked our interest in the Bible more kasi iba yung approach kasi mas malalim. Parang there's more to the Bible than meets the eye. Ang dami pa pala niya. It's like a prism. Ang dami niyang facets. And today we have with us our professor from ATS. He is a graduate of Asian Theological Seminary, Master's in Divinity and Biblical Studies. He is an adjunct professor and Biblical Studies at the Department of ATS. He's a translation officer in training at Philippine Bible Society. He's a preaching elder at the Shepherd's Flock Christian Reformed Church. And he is currently taking up doctors at or PhD at the Loyola School of Theology Ateneo de Manila. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome here on the Breakfast with the King stage, Sir Alvin Bailon. Hi, sir. Good morning.
Hello, Kathy. Hello, Karlo. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for saying yes to our invitation. Habang nagsasalita si sir, naalala ko yung ano natin, yung mga lessons, di ba? Kasi buong araw, nanonood ako ng kanyang mga recorded video, which is part
Yeah.
of our, what do you call this? Part of our requirement for school kasi meron tayong synchronous and asynchronous lessons. So
Yes.
anyway, so Karlo, how would you like to start this?
Okay. Well, to our audience, no, ang format natin for today, yung program flow natin is quite different. We will start by citing three controversial Bible verses. No, ito yung mga Bible verses na, kumbaga, could start parang a debate between people kung anong meaning. And it really happened. It really happens. Itong mga Bible verses na talagang medyo sometimes it sparks an argument kung ano ang interpretation niya. So we will show three, and then after we will do a fast talk. Kung napapanood nyo si Boy Abunda, not because pareho kami haircut ni Boy Abunda, pero kung napapanood nyo si Boy Abunda, that's what we're gonna do. So ako, after yung three controversial Bible verses segment, I will ask 10 questions na fast talk, and then after nun, si Kathy naman, her 10 questions kay Sir Alvin. Okay, so let's start with the Bible verses. Direct, can you kindly flash? Kathy, kindly start on this.
Okay, controversial Bible verses starting with Genesis 6:2. The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Did angels come down and make love with human women?
Wow. Ang ganda nung design nyo, no? First, I'd like to mention that we can actually make a Netflix series out of this passage. And yes, this is one of the weirdest Bible passages I've encountered. And I'd like to start off that I don't think there's a easy answer. So I'm not going to say that, what I'm going to say is the right answer. Basically, the issue here is that who are these sons of God who came in and, chose these daughters of human beings? So there are basically three points of view from biblical scholars. The first one they are heavenly creatures. In their cultural milieu, it was not uncommon for them to think of heavenly beings, whom they considered gods, to come down on earth and take on women for themselves. We see this in the Greek mythologies and all of that. So it's within their thinking paradigm. The second is that these are kings. There is a mentality also during their time, especially in the ancient Near East, where the sons of God were the kings. They were the chosen ones. They had a higher status than other human beings. And the last one, this is kind of weird, is that these are um, uh, human leaders. Some say it is the descendants of Cain who married the descendants of Seth. These are the two children of Adam and Eve, and these are some weird theories. So basically, those are the three suggestions among many, but these are the main things. But what I'd like to point out when we're reading something like this is our tendency is to focus on the weirdness, and I guess that's correct. But we have to understand the passage on its whole context. It's the passage is part of a set of verses. I think it's until verse 8, where it introduces the story of the flood. Yeah. We all are familiar with that, with Noah and the flood and the ark and all of that. And so this is an introduction to what is happening during the time of Noah, what is the world coming to. And what we need to see is there the sons of God saw, okay, and they took women, okay. And so where do we get that set of verbs the same way? We have that in Genesis 3, where the woman, Eve, saw the fruit, and saw that it was beautiful and delicious to eat, and it was good you know, for being godlike, and she took it. Okay? So this verse needs to be read in parallel with Genesis 3. All right? So that the sinful ways of the human beings that started with the first human beings, Adam and Eve, is now spread all over humankind. I think that's the main message there. Um, Another is that we see that all of the theories are connected. The sons of God are defined as people who are in power, or beings who are in power. And so I think the point there is the oppressive nature, the sin that is prevalent in the world at that time is connected with the abuse of power, where those who are in power, whether a king, whether a human, a demigod, half god, half
Mhm.
human being, or a human leader, those who are in power can just see and take. If they want to, they can just simply take it. Huh? It's still happening right now, isn't it? There are a lot of people that, if they see someone, they just take it. If they see something, a company, I'll want it for myself, I'll take it. you know so this is the sin that one of the sins that has is so prevalent in the world, and I think that's the point. And then if you go further, that's the perspective of these sons of God, and then God himself sees something. God sees the wickedness of the human beings, and he regrets it. You know, he's affected by the sin, which is a stark contrast. First and foremost, the perspective of God. We see the perspective of God here. The powerful are enjoying themselves, just getting whatever they want. But God sees the wickedness behind it, and they don't. Those in power, these so-called sons of God, are not affected, but God is affected by the sin of human beings. Isn't that, it's fantastic, isn't it? That the God that we have, he is the all-powerful one. That's the irony there. He is the all-powerful one, but he is affected by the sin in the world, and he has to do something about it. Whereas those who are quote unquote sons of God, simply take. I think that's the
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
that's the main point of it. But
Mm.
yeah, so that's it. There's a
Yes, actually, sir. Ako, I read. There's an uncanonized book, yung Book of Enoch,
Ah, yeah,
binasa ko a
yeah.
portion of that. It refers to the, kasi sabi mo there are three interpretations of main interpretations of this verse, and one is literally heavenly beings went down to earth and then married, no? Yung
Mhm.
mga human women. And well, sa Book of Enoch, literally, I think ganun yung interpretation talaga. Pero ang ganda ng sinabi mo, it's not just the fascination na there's a possibility na, angels might have come down, tapos and ano. It's, kumbaga, uh, let's not get parang too excited about that, but rather, let's look at the message of the
Mhm.
verse. Kasi
Yeah.
sometimes maano ka, like ako na-fascinate ako eh. Parang
Me
ano
too.
to, ganyan. Oh. Fascinating eh. So, ang ganda ng sinabi niyo, sir, na we look at the message of the verse.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's, ang ano doon is, people with power, nag-stem doon sa kasalanan ni Eve. She took the fruit, no? And it is the same ever since.
Yes.
We have been taking things. Yan.
Yeah, yeah.
Grabe, we really have the right guest for today. Pang
I'd
ano,
like I'd like
number
to
one
add
pa lang yan, ah. Yes, sir.
I'd like to add that the sons of God, and then there's another statement, the Nephilim. That's another weird
Oh yeah, oo.
character.
Yung mga
So
giant to, sir, no?
yes, they're in parallel. They're in parallel in that passage. The Nephilim, they were the heroes. So the sons of God are kind of connected. I don't know if they're the same character or they're kind of in that same degree. The Nephilim, these powerful warriors, and some say I think it is Goliath who's considered a Nephilim. So these are
I
giants. These
see.
are so it's that weird kind of world that it's weird for us because we the giants are in the NBA now. Making millions. Well, when you think about it, it's not so it's not so different. But they're the heroes and they're renowned and they're famous and they're
Mm.
famous and then they just take whatever they want. And then the contrast is that the value system is so different. With God,
Mm.
he's not looking at renown. He's not looking at this. He's not impressed.
Mm.
He's not impressed. And so, regardless whether it's in their world where the powerful gods and goddesses, come into our world, and or now we have our own sets of gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
I don't want to start mentioning terms, no, but
Tama ka, sir. No?
uh,
Ironically, sa NBA nga, they have all the money, they have all the influence. Mga
yeah.
giants yung mga nasa NBA eh. Yeah.
So they're not just literal giants, Carlo, right? No, they
Oh.
are, they can just get away with it, and you can extend that to sports personalities like F1 drivers, and
Mm.
Michael Jordan is considered a god.
Yeah.
He's the goat. And then you have
Yeah.
the famous celebrities, movie personalities, and all that. And so we have our own sets of gods and goddesses right now who can just, not all of them, but they have this power. They can just take whatever they want.
Yeah. They
And
can.
behind that, there's this God who sees beyond that,
Mm.
and he has to wipe them out.
Grabe naman.
That's the fearful thing. If you read further, and then there's this little guy called Noah, who's just, and the big thing about him is that he's found favor in the eyes of God. So there's a lot of contrast going on there, and sometimes that's what we want. We want to be considered sons of God, children of God, right? In our own powerful way. So who can simply take. So
Okay, sir.
all right.
Let's present the next Bible verse. Let's see, Dre. Okay, the next one, controversial to.
Hi.
Leviticus 18:22, you shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. So question ko, so I can't have a girlfriend or wife? Well, At to the audience, yung girlfriend, kasi no premarital sex, meaning parang lie, talagang humiga ka lang literally katabi yung girlfriend mo. So, sir, ano ba meaning ng verse na to? Kasi it's a little confusing. Okay.
This is so difficult, Carlo. I don't. You know, when you sent me this one, and the first thing when I was reading it, so the command is simply not to lie with a male as with a woman. So, is there a way to lie with a woman? That is, or is there a way to lie with a male? You know, there are different styles. So that was my mind was going through, and then the Lord said, stop. This is Carlo and Kathy are true Christians. Don't get into that, you know. But that was really what was on my mind. I was checking the different versions, and I said, this could be misread, you know. So I just need to lie with another man in the style of lying down with a man. So you know, the issue, I think we need to mention, this is really one of the verses that is used against homosexuality. That's the first thing that we have to I have to put that out there. And when you read it, it's quite obvious, you know. It's quite obvious. And so I just want to focus on certain things. I read the whole, again, if you remember what you mentioned earlier, that we took up hermeneutics. And hermeneutics, when we try to understand a certain verse in the Bible, we want to understand it within its context. What we mean is we want to understand it within its literary context. It means, you know, the chapter, the verses surrounding it, because it's part of a thought flow. I think that's where we get in trouble, because the way that we read the Bible is like fishbowl. You know, we make tusok lang the verses that we like. And so I think, sabi mo nga, Carlo, yes, a lot of these verses are controversial, but a lot of the controversy can be resolved. I'm not saying the controversy will die down, but a lot of the controversy will, I guess, be tempered down if we really simply just read the verses in context, and remember really the point, you know, of the writers in writing these statements. The verse 18 does what's this? Does discuss sexual practices, and I really was intrigued, and I wanted to research on this more later on. I haven't had the time, but it was interesting for me because the first part of the chapter deals with the taboo amongst family relations. So you don't have sex with your aunt. You don't have sexual relations with your granddaughter or your mother's or your wife's sister. Okay, and so it is, you know, even with our contemporary sensibilities, that's really kind of weird. What I realized then was that they were, I read this scholar said that because they were living in a very tribal kind of culture, where everyone was, you know, similar siguro sa Filipino, but not so much. Everyone was, you know, together all the time. Aside from the immediate, you have the extended family, and they were all living in one location. You really have to have order, because it will disrupt the relationship within that tribe. So the first part really deals with that, that, you know, God is a God that wants to foster community. And so all of these taboo, these sexual practices, it's not just, you know, God is just a killjoy. No, he wants us to have a healthy relationship. Of course, it includes sexual relations, but within a healthy, you know, communal relationship. So that's the first part. And then the second part, of which this one is part of, extends that into, you know, what is really, really detestable. That's one of the versions. You know, abomination. You know, it's really, it's really hateful, despicable. Yeah, those are the words that can be used there. And it has to do with the practices that is done within the other cultures surrounding them. Um, and so the one of the main points there is that um, because this is spoken to the people of God, you're going to have good relations within, and you're going to have distinctiveness from without. Okay, so that's the main idea behind this passage. So you're going to be, living in community together. So you better have rules within that community so that it will not disrupt the community. Okay, so you just can't sleep with, any of the women in close contact with. There are rules. And then from the outside, with your tribe, your people are going to be distinct in terms of your practices, especially in terms of sexual practices. So you can't just sleep with the horse, or you can't sleep with this way. All right, and so this is part of that. Now, going to the verse itself, the only thing that I want to focus on is, if you notice, what is really, really abominable is the action itself. You see there, it's a verb. You shall not lie, or you shall not have, I guess, sexual relation. You can't have sex in a way, So the focus is really on the action. Um, and I think, and I don't want to. So when we understand this verse, what is being prohibited is simply the action, not the desire, not the inclination or the tendency, but the act. But the act. And so using this verse to condemn certain people, for having certain orientation, certain tendencies, certain inclination, I believe is wrong and is misusing this verse as a weapon. Um, so, uh, so we have to be very, very careful of using this kind of verse. Also, I'd like to say that Leviticus has always been misused because there are a lot of weird laws there. And sometimes we pick out laws that are convenient for us. For example, I remember there's a verse there. You can't mark your skin, something like that. So in other words, they're prohibiting tattoos. Okay. So there's biblical basis for not having tattoo. But I think in the very next verse, or the verses after that, you can't shave your beard. So what we're doing? So why are you obeying the verse 16 and not obeying verse 18?
Right.
So that's our
Yeah.
tendency. That's wrong hermeneutics, right, Carlo and Kathy? That's wrong
Yes, sir.
interpretation, that you're going to be selective only of the
Right.
verses that you're going to obey or impose on other people. So we have to be very, very careful. And these laws in Leviticus are really ancient, and they're, again, coming from a very, very different cultural kind of thinking. They don't have, we are differentiated by the kind of sociology and psychological information and research and data that we have right now. They come from a very different world. So importing this passage into our modern contemporary situation without considering all of these factors is very, very dangerous, and we will misuse this passage, and we will hurt people, which is not what the Bible was used. It was not designed for. I'm really a strong advocate for that. As you mentioned, we are all students of the Word, and we have to be very, very careful of using verses like this. And so, Carlo, yes, you can have a girlfriend. you know, just ask that girlfriend or of your wife how you want her to lie down, or you lie, you know, yeah. Or is it on the side, or I'm joking, but yeah, it's whew, when you gave this to me, wow, this is really one of the verses I don't want to.
Be asked.
But that's what I want to emphasize. It's really within the context of being in a community, and also of being a distinctive kind of community. So I guess in our reflection on how to
Mm-mm.
think about big issues like homosexuality, and all of these sexual uh, issues and controversies, we have to take that into consideration. It's not simply the immoral individual act, but how does it play in the bigger community? Is there a problem within the community that is contributing to these kinds of actions?
Mhm.
Um, and so we have to, and what's the higher law that we are
Mhm.
supposed to uh, be obeying? And then in the verse itself, just remember, it is the act itself that is being prohibited. It is the act itself that's being prohibited.
Mhm. Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So in essence, sir, when we read the word, sometimes we have to do macro. Hindi lang yung
Yes.
naka-focus ka on that particular verse.
Yes.
You have to see the context, and if yeah, context, tapos zoom out tayo
Mm-mm.
to
That's
see
true.
the meaning of it, and how the Lord wants for us to apply, the message, or first, what is his message, and then
Yes.
how can we apply it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. For the third verse, direct, can you please flash it? All right. It says in Ephesians 5:22 to 24, wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, wives should also submit everything to their husbands. What if my husband is wrong or cruel? Do I still follow him?
Yan, nako, delikado to. I don't know if my wife is watching, Carlo, ha? Yung mga, I think Kathy chose this verse, huh?
Nahalata ako, nahalata.
Yeah. Yes, this is one of the you know another verse that I think has been misused and been used to abuse mostly women. Actually, women, not mostly. Um, and it's sad. It's sad that it's been used that way. Um, this verse has a preceding verse that I think we need to emphasize. Let me just check. Yeah. Verse 22 has verse 21 preceding it, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm just going to check quickly. And it says, be subject to one another out of reverence for Christ. In the Good News translation, submit yourselves to one another because of your reverence for Christ. So this is that verse 21 starts off the whole section of wives and husbands, and then it goes on, I think, to children and parents, masters and servants, and all of that. And so I think that's the criteria that dictates how we understand these verses. And so so the focus here again is submission. All right. But Paul has already said that we have to submit to one another. Okay, we have to submit to one another. All right. And that's another loaded word, submit.
Mm.
I don't know what even that means, because actually in this verse, the the verb is not there. If I have to check again, it is simply you know uh, being,
Mm.
so it's really weird. But I think the point here is that there is a mutuality in the community of Jesus, which Paul is trying to teach the church in Ephesus. Because all of us are sinners, all of us, are just saved by grace. Then there's, we just simply, to foster that community. We have that mutuality. I think that's the underlying principle that we. And now, how does that work in practical terms? Says Paul. So yung wives submit to their husbands. I don't know what does that mean, And some say that the most of the time they say the wife does not decide or keeps quiet. Yeah, and the husband is the leader of the household. Yeah, ganon, He is the head, even as Christ is the head of the church. And all of that, But remember, the assumption there is that the husband is acting in a Christ-like way. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that correct? It can't be one-sided. You're forcing the wife to submit, but the husband is, more like the sons of God in Genesis 6 rather than like Christ with his. And how was Christ with the church? I think the succeeding verses explain it. He gave himself for the church. So there is a selflessness. There is this self-sacrifice. That's the way that the husband will submit to his wife. That's the way he will treat his wife. I don't know why the emphasis on this discussion of these verses is always on the wife. When the wife is kind of assertive, submit. Ganon. Diba? I mean, it's really weird. And then it becomes
Tatawa si Karlo, sir.
Tatawa si Karlo. Nervous laugh ba yan, Cathy? Is it a nervous kind of a laugh? No?
Yes, sir. He can relate.
Oy, grabe naman.
It's really weird for me because, because I've always been submissive. Joke lang. Because my wife is listening, I think she's watching. No, the weird thing there is that it becomes this submit to your husband becomes the absolute truth above everything else. So when the husband is, there's no inquiry as to the husband's character. Every time there's a marital conflict, the issue is always the wife should submit. The wife should submit. She should be, like a martyr. I don't know if it's a Filipino thing because, ganun tayo diba? Drama, ganyan. And yung wife is the mabait and, ganun ang pinoportray ni Judy Ann ata dati or whoever man, diba? Parang ganun. Diba? Yung ganun. They're not, kahit lalasenggo si pare, hindi pale, nagsasabit siya, ganun. But ganun ba yun? And then the church leaders, more often than not, the ones who impose this rule are male church leaders. Diba? Who submit? Sabay kape. Kape pa nga! Mare, kape pa nga! No? Makautos parang sons of God no? So, connected pala ng mga verses na ito pinili nyo, Karlo. No? Diba? Makautos sa mga daughters of men. Kape pa nga. Diba? Naks, habang nagdi-discuss ng mga deep Bible verses. No? Diba? Ganun yung men. No? Tapos, sige na, yung alagaan niyo yung children, kasi kami, magdi-discuss pa kami ng mga Ephesians dito, mga ganyan. And then,
discuss pa kami mga Ephesians.
Diba, no? Ganon yung mga men, no? I'm sorry, kasi guilty na ako sa church namin, Diba? The women are the ones preparing the pichi-pichi and ganyan, and then the men are just in deep thought, o-orderin ba natin yung Ford Raptor Pirate Pastor o Kasi baka lumabas yung bagong Mitsubishi na why don't you, will we wait? Ganon ang mga decision. Ang lalalim ninyo, padre. But that's what I was. That's really weird because often there's marital conflict, and I have a little personal ano dito, hugot, because a friend of mine was a victim of this passage, and she was really broken. And she was in an abusive relationship. Kaso yung lalaki, church leader. And so she was banged with this passage. And sabi ko, then she, of course, she asked me, kasi akala niya marunong ako sa Bible. Sabi ko, hiwalayin mo na yan, wala nang Bible verse, umalis ka na. Sabi ko, ganon. Dali mo yung kotse mo, dali mo yung bank account mo, di ba? Dali mo yung ATMs mo, palitan mo lahat yung password sa mga bank accounts mo. Tingnan mo kung sino magsasubmit ngayon. Really weird. It was really weird. So is that an absolute? It becomes an absolute, no, Kathy? Regardless kung abusive or cruel or whatever, mag-submit. Why don't the women also make the bakit hindi ka magpapako sa krus, 'di ba? Christ-like ka, 'di ba?
So sir, parang kumbaga baka the men, siguro sinasabi niya in essence, the men should submit to their role. Meaning, they're the pastor of the family, they're who the Lord uses to, make things happen for the family, bring order, and everything, no? Kumbaga siya yung command responsibility for the family as he submits to the Lord. Parang yun yung role niya. Pero yung babae, yun nga po, siya, under the authority of the husband pa din. Tama ba, sir?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to say a little. I really do believe that, right? Of course, the men have that responsibility to not only submit to Christ's authority, and then try to, I guess, lead in a way yung family. But I've always viewed marriage as a partnership. The Bible came from a very patriarchal cultural thinking. But there are portions in the Bible which try to subvert that.
Yeah.
So I believe that because one of the basic things about marriage is that you're one flesh already. So how can one flesh have a hierarchy? And so, yes, both have responsibilities, and both have, roles to play. But I don't want, I won't play the role of imposing on you, Karlo and Kathy, what kinds of roles you should play in your marriage. I think the best people who can and should talk about, what kinds of roles and functions and whatever are the two of you, along with God, and so you discuss that amongst yourselves, between the two of you. Yes, you may seek advice from pastors and professors, but I'm very, very careful of trying to impose certain rules and regulations because I don't really see it in the New Testament or even the Old Testament where there is a prescribed set of roles and function that are really absolute. So here Paul is suggesting to the Ephesus within their cultural background, which is kind of radical because if it's a patriarchal culture, asking the husband to be Christ-like, to be self-sacrificing, is really is a radical turn. Where in a culture where male are not questioned and they are always dominant and domineering, and there is no question to that. It's allowed, it's encouraged. They're the ones in power. But for Paul to say God that the husband should be Christ-like, in other words, use that authority in a way that is humble, in a way that is self-sacrificing, in a way that, is always selfless. Uh, and if you go to the Gospels, that's the leadership paradigm of Jesus. I have come not to be served, but to serve. So it's really kind of a reversal. So that's the it's a general principle, and how that will work out in your lives. For example, Carlo and Kathy, it's up to you. It's up to you. There's a general principle there that Paul has laid down, but in our time right now, how will that work? You know, how will that work? You have to work out. You have to work that out for yourselves. I believe no one can really impose. Kathy, when you come home from work, you have to bake cupcakes for Carlo kasi that's submitting to your husband. Oh, Carlo, you go and open your Bible in front of Kathy every 7 a.m. Ganyan, ganyan. I mean, yeah, I think those are the things that no one can really dictate. You have to work that out for yourselves. I think God has given you the wisdom and the grace to do that for yourself. So I'm very, very careful of trying to impose certain things, which sometimes become very uncomfortable for husband and wife. I've experienced sometimes na gano'n, parang, ay, sabi ni pastor, dapat daw ganyan ka. And then so
Meron
we
nga
have to be careful.
may friend kami nun, ano yun, Carlo, yung si major and minor decisions.
Oh
Naalala mo
yeah,
yun?
yung
Anong
setup
sabi?
namin na Sir Alvin,
Mm.
si Kathy, siya lahat nagde-decide sa minor decisions. Ako naman bilang lalaki, ako lahat sa major decisions. Pero since we got married, lahat ng decisions are all minor.
Yeah. I like that, Carlo. The only major decision they have to make is, to say that, all decisions are mine.
Ay, nako. So now, sir, we will go. We just you just answered 3 controversial Bible passages, and now we'll do a fast
Okay.
talk with you. So top of mind lang, sir. Ganun lang kabilis,
Okay.
Kung ano yung
Sige.
naisip
Parang
mo.
ano lang to, either a word or a
Okay.
phrase ang sagot.
Nako,
Okay, I'll
lalabas
start
ko
with
yung
mine.
tipotokong
Let's see.
espiritu na siya.
So, I'll be ala boy Abunda style. Okay, I'll do this
Okay,
fast,
okay.
Okay,
All right.
first question. What is your life verse?
Oh, Isaiah 40, verse 31.
What does that say, sir?
Biglang hindi ko na alam. It's those who hope in the Lord shall soar like the eagle. They will run and not be faint. They will walk and not be. So that's always been there.
Nice.
Beautiful
Second
verse.
question.
Yes.
Bible character that you love most?
Whew, top of mind is Job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Bible character you hate most?
I hate. Nako, wala ata. Maybe Jezebel.
Jezebel. Jezebel? Sino ba si Jezebel? Wait.
Jezebel, not the mermaid. I like her.
Oo nga. Sino nga si Jezebel?
The wife of King Ahab.
Oh, yeah.
That's another good case study of marriage.
Okay, next question. For you, most controversial disciple of Jesus?
Interesting. I think it would be Peter.
Peter.
Peter kasi is really the main disciple. He's presented that way. But he's also the most, I think, flawed. That includes Judas. He's the most flawed.
Okay.
I mean, he's Mr. Excited and all of that. And then he denies, can you imagine?
Yeah.
He denies Jesus
Yeah.
3 times. And he's
Kulit
also,
eh.
yeah, ang yabang kasi, excited. Diba? And that's why I think, I don't know, it's fantastic. It's really a great character to study.
Okay, next question. Which do you like better, the Old or New Testament?
Oh, the Old Testament.
Okay. Next question. The best woman Bible character for you?
Oh, it's I remember her name. Woman Bible character. It's Jael.
Yeah,
Jael.
Jael.
Who is she,
Yeah.
sir?
She's the one who killed the
Ah,
You remember Deborah and Barak? They were being attacked by Sisera and I forgot the kingdom that they and Jael was this lady whose husband was friends with the enemy captain, but she
Mm.
was part of the Hebrew.
why do
And
you like her,
so,
sir?
oh,
Hmm.
she's brave, and she used she used cunning. So she brought in the commander, gave him milk and then she put a tent
Funny.
peg
Yeah.
into his temple.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Girl power, girl.
Girl
And another
power.
Ah,
character, I guess, another woman character that I've been studying for quite a while is Hagar. I like Hagar.
Hagar. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the one who was the runaway, the single mom,
Mm.
who had been given the same promises as Abraham. Very interesting.
Hmm.
Mm. Okay,
Okay.
next question, sir. Who is the Pharisee that is okay with you?
A Pharisee. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's
Oh, I don't
okay
know.
with you, eh, no?
Yeah. I can't remember any Pharisee that. I guess
Nicodemus, sir.
Paul. Nicodemus. Yeah,
Paul.
yeah, Nicodemus. But he went to Jesus at night. Kunyari pa siya.
Next question.
Paul say that many say Paul was a Pharisee. So
Okay.
mm,
Next question, sir. The best Bible disciple of Jesus for you.
a disciple of Jesus,
The best for you.
the best. I guess it was Mary Magdalene.
Really?
Yes, she became the apostle to the apostles.
Oh, wow.
Remember?
We didn't know
She was
that. Yeah.
right. She was the first one to see Jesus resurrected, and she
Yeah.
was sent. She was sent to the apostles to tell them that Jesus is
Mm.
risen from the dead. She was the first one
Yeah.
at the tomb. One of the first ones. She was the one of the last ones to see Jesus die. All of the men, you know,
Mm-mm.
ran
Didn't
away.
see. Ah,
Diba?
yeah.
They all ran away. All of those sons of God, wala. Only the women stayed behind to see Jesus die. And then the very first opportunity to go visit Jesus, the women uh, went with them. And Mary Magdalene, who is not a prostitute, by the way, is
Mm.
what many call the apostle to the apostles. And it's very interesting that God would choose a woman, to send
Hmm.
the good news first to the
True.
apostles. Mm.
My last question, sir, and then yung
Mm.
10 questions sa ni Kathy. Is it okay to wear
Mm.
shorts in Sunday service or in Mass?
Oh yes, I'd love to. Ayaw lang ako payagan ng wife ko to wear shorts. But I'd love to, pair it with the nice Vans, and then tapos inisip na, I'm very,
Imagine na.
I
So in
guess
essence, sir, go ahead. So go ahead, sir. Go. Sorry
sa
po.
akin kasi contextual yun eh. Depende sa context ninyo. If it's going to offend some people, naka-shorts ka during worship, okay lang. Just try to but in other context naman, mas nakaka-offend pag nakabarong ka, 'di ba? I mean, it's intimidating. 'Di ba? I mean, I've been to communities parang wow, barong, they don't want to listen to you because mukha kang judgmental kagad, mukha kang pastor eh. Uh, so I guess it depends on the
Depends on
context.
your
Pero as a general
context.
rule, I would love to attend my dream is to have a church that is set up in a cafe where the worship is, just chilling and shorts kayo and you're drinking coffee while you're worshiping. So I guess
Ganda
wala namang
yun.
prescription
Ganda.
sa New Testament ng the way that we want to wear or worship.
Okay, thank you, sir. So those were Carlos fast talk 10 questions.
I see.
And now I'd start with mine. Which among the uncanonized books do you think should have been included in the Bible?
Oh wow, nice question. I was just working on that when we were translating the Pinoy version. Uh, By the way, it's going to be launched Monday. I hope you can get a copy.
Oh,
We were working on a couple of Deuterocanonicals. One of the books that really intrigued me was Judith. It's a story about this woman. She was a widow who saved Israel by going there, and it's her story is similar to Esther, and all of that. Judith, by the way, is the woman version of Judah, so of the name Judah. So the feminine version of the name Judah. So she was kind of representative of. So I like that story. It's so nice. Judith.
okay. All right, sir. Number two, your thoughts on the Gospel of Judas.
I've not actually read it. So I've heard a lot of stories about it. I don't know kung yun ba yung nasa Da Vinci Code. I think it would be an interesting read.
Yes, sir.
But enough scholarship has been done to debunk the canonicity of that book. But
Oh,
there's no harm in reading it. But there's a reason why it wasn't included in the canon. So
yes, sir. All right. So number three, what do you think of women leadership in church? Can they be pastors?
more. Yes, yes. Naku, patay ako dito sa denomination namin. You know, here's my take. Leadership is really about gifts. It's not about gender. It's about gifts and the community context. So if a woman is gifted in preaching, and there are a lot of that we see, if a woman has a gift of leadership, administration, then why prohibit them from leading? We're going to prohibit the Holy Spirit from pouring out and utilizing the gifts that He has, showered upon the people of God. So I tend to be very open to that. I don't know what the fear is. I think it's a lot of insecure men prohibiting. So I have no problem with women lead. Maybe it's because of my background. My mom was in the corporate world. I saw her. She was not the typical, she couldn't cook the most that she could do. I didn't grow up with that paradigm, housewife and all of that.
Yeah.
But what I see from the Bible, there's no such, and there's a lot of women leaders in the Bible from the Old Testament, Deborah and all of these prophets, and then we go to the New Testament. The women play prominent roles, like Mary Magdalene, the women who supported Jesus, Mary and Martha were very prominent in the community. I think the early Christian community was more egalitarian than we think so. I think it was only in the later part of our, or early in our 20th century, where the focus on male leadership became really an issue. But if there is a gift, whether a man or a woman, we should allow that to be used and to be used for the community, for the good of the people.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Number four, when the rapture comes, do you think you will be taken?
I hope so. I'm
Sir,
going to say something controversial. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Kathy.
sabay-sabay tayo, sir. Mukhang ganyan.
Oo. Hindi ko alam kasi ang daming mga theories Merong rapture, tapos babalik si Jesus, and then pupunta na naman. Ganon. I'm really confused. That's why our position is that there's just only one, one second coming. Kasi pag bumalik ulit si Jesus, the third coming na yun, di ba? Sorry, I don't want I want to respect other people's eschatology. But
Okay.
I believe that when Jesus comes back, he won't take us out, but he will come in and renew our world. Isn't that fantastic? I believe that's what he will do. ang ganda niyong show niyo, all things new, di ba?
Mm.
That's your tagline and all that. I don't think God will allow this world to be completely destroyed. You know, um, I think it's going to be renewed, and I think that's the point of the resurrection. You know, that our bodies are going to be renewed, and therefore, if we have physical essence in our eternal life, then we are going to live in a physical kind of world. And remember, in Genesis 1, this is actually very good, this world. And so the salvation that God has put in place is not just about our souls. Remember, the animals entered Noah's ark also.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, the huskies went in with the giraffe, the koala bears, right? You know, the
Yeah.
sons of God were, the Nephilim were not included, but the German shepherds are there. So the I think the kingdom of God, wants to rule in this world. And so I believe God is going to cause a renewal. The in Revelation, the Jerusalem is coming down, you know, to be with human beings. So God has always wanted to be with us. It has always been a downward movement. Jesus came from the throne, from the heavens, from God's presence, to be with us. And so he resurrected. He had this bodily form, died in our place, and resurrected. And we will do it with him. But it doesn't. But it includes renewing this world, I believe.
Mm.
So I
Okay.
think. So I think a lot of these things that we're enjoying right now, we'll
Mm.
enjoy for eternity. Isn't that fantastic, Carlo? No, that there will be Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and right, no, Kathy, and that will have
Yes.
the work that you do with SM Aura is going to have eternal impact, right? I mean, so I'd like to think of it that way, and I
Mm.
do hope that when Jesus returns, um, he'll tell me that
Mm.
you've done well, except whatever you said in that show, Breakfast with the King. Good thing, Carlo and Kathy were very gracious, and so. But if
Sir.
the rapture is true, I hope I'll be raptured.
All right, sir. Okay, so number 5, do you
Mm-mm.
think um dogs or our pets go to heaven when they pass?
Oh, that's a hard question. Whew. Naku, my daughter will be angry if I say otherwise. I don't know. I don't know. But I do believe God is concerned with
Mm.
the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom.
Mm.
He created so much diversity. Right? Again, going back to the story of Noah and the ark, he saved all those animals. They were not part of the sinfulness of human beings. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yes, sir. Okay.
He's the God of the impossible. If he can resurrect Christ, then he can probably resurrect, poodles. So
Yeah. All right. So, sir, hymnal praise and worship, or
mm-mm.
which do you prefer? Hymnal praise and worship, or one with drums and a full band?
I like yung rock and roll. Alam ni Carlo yan.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Bono.
Gusto ko yung worship na may konting holy head banging, yung mga ganyan. But
Okay.
I also like hymnals. I find it, it's nostalgic for me. But I like rock and
Number
roll.
7, should ministers talk about politics or endorse a specific political party from the pulpit?
Uh, they should talk about justice, social justice. And some of that will eventually touch upon certain politicians, certain issues of the day, uh, but never partisan.
Mm.
Never about political personalities,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
it's always about social justice. If a
Okay.
particular political person or a politician is doing evil, um, the pastor, the minister, should call that out. That this is clear evil.
Mm.
So, but the issue here is always about social justice, and I think ministers should always talk about that.
Okay. Does the Bible restrict us from eating certain food?
Yeah. Nako, may bias ako dyan. Hindi. I don't think so, Kathy. I think Jesus wants us to always eat and eat and eat everything. Joke lang. Of course, I respect other people's spiritual diet, spiritually, what's this, influenced diet.
Yeah.
But my personal belief is that there's a particular passage in Mark where Jesus was saying, it is not what you eat that defiles you, but what comes out of your heart. So, and then there's a parenthetical statement there in Mark. I think he says that, in other words, Jesus has just abolished all the food laws. So I think there's a freedom. And then in Acts, God comes up with this exotic food buffet for Peter, and 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 so I think I don't think there's a dietary restriction, but of
Okay.
course it's up,
All right.
up to your conscience.
All right, sir. And what's your favorite Christian song? And can you sing a
I
few
know I
lines
don't
from
want to
it?
sing that one. No, 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 no. Huh. Um,
Okay.
no, no. But there's one thing. There's an old song. I don't think you know it. You just Google
Mm.
it later. It's called
Mm.
"When God Ran." It's from Benny Hester, and it's a song based on.
Parang I heard that.
Yeah, it's a very old '80s song. It's a from Benny Hester. It's "When God Ran." It's based on the parable of the prodigal son, and he says that basta
He ran
the
to
only
me,
time,
towards
yeah,
me.
the only time that I ever saw you run, when you ran to me,
Yun, ganda
took
dun,
me in
sir.
his veins, lifted
Yun
up
na,
my.
kakanta na
Ah, wala
eh.
na, naiiyak na. you know. But because it's fantastic, isn't it? That the only time that
Yeah.
God would really run was that he would run to
Oh,
us and just
yeah.
because he's been waiting
Yeah.
for us to come home, and he can't
Yeah.
wait. He can't wait, and he just runs. And so
Ganda.
Very nice song. Yes, very
very
nice song.
uh,
Ganda.
And lastly, sir, what's the central message of the Bible? Eh,
oh,
As a close, as an ending to our episode for today,
siguro in
sir.
one sentence sa akin, the message of the Bible is God really just wants to be with us. The name Yahweh is is often says I am who I am, which is wrong. He is, but it was spoken in a context by where God says I am with you, so you don't have to fear anything. And again and again and again, and then Jesus comes as the Emmanuel, God with us. The temple, the tabernacle, all of these were set up so that God will be with us. So Jesus is the ultimate temple, He being with us. The church is the temple where God's presence can be felt and enjoyed and experienced. So the point really is simply God really wants to be with us. And He wants to be with us in this wonderful, beautiful, very good world with huskies and koala bears and the McLarens and uh, and the Ferraris. They keep losing lang, kakainis, and enjoying. This is the world that God. I think that's the whole point. And Jesus came and just took on all of the sin that that hinders us from being with God fully,
Hmm.
because He is God who is with us. So
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, and one day He will complete what He started, and that's the point of the second coming. Right now we can't feel it, but we see glimpses of that already, right? In our
Yes,
churches,
sir.
in
Mm.
your work, Kathy and Carlo, we see glimpses of that. We feel God every day. When you're enjoying a movie, when you're with your date,
Yeah.
when you're feeling all of these emotions, these pleasant emotions or pleasure in effect, That's just those are pointers, said C.S. Lewis, to God's presence. When you see beauty, when you see goodness, when you see justice, when you see certain politicians fighting certain funds, kahit mag-isa lang siya at babae pa, you see that, God is with us. Nandito pa rin siya. And I think that's the central message of the Bible. And so we can continue. We can continue as we wait for that day where we don't need to live by faith because we will see and experience God as He is.
Amen. All right. So that is coming from a theologian and whose work and studies revolve around the Bible. Thank you so much, Sir Alvin, for being in our show today. It was a fun
Thank you.
episode, and
It was. Thank you for me.
so thank you so much, everybody. Congratulations to the new channel for its third year anniversary. And sir, no, wala na si sir, no, but we'd like to thank the following sponsors who made Breakfast with the King possible. MFH Church, Pastor Butch Alvarez. Thank you to the Good Feast PH, to Lingap, to Yassine's, My Daily Collagen, and JL Maxi Builders. Thank you so much to Sister May Rose Coronel of CCF, Sister Evelyn Javier of ABS CBN Fellowship, and an anonymous donor. And of course, we'd like to thank Sante Barley also for being a sponsor of our show here. Take Sante Barley every day. They also have their vitamin C with zinc. Thank you so much again, Professor Alvin, for being here with us. And Karlo, you want to close the show?
Well, yeah. It was really an interesting show. Ang ganda ng mga insights ni Sir Alvin regarding sa mga verses that we gave, no, yung mga controversial verses. And then I really enjoyed yung fast talk, yung mga answers niya dun sa mga questions. Nakakatuwa. Si Sir Alvin talaga, one of my favorite professors talaga yan eh. Forever. So, thank you sa lahat na nanonood. No? We hope that you enjoyed the show as much as us. And be blessed, no? Kumbaga, take this time, no, itong weekend to recharge. Alam namin, pagod kayo sa trabaho. And then when you start next week, no, as you face it, no, face it with the confidence of the Lord that He is always with you. And whatever challenges are there at work, or di kaya naman, whatever it is.
In school or family life. Yeah.
Yes. Kayang-kaya niya yan because the Lord is with you. So,
all right. So Breakfast with the King is not just live on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. We are also heard on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So if you're not able to see this live, meron din tayong replay. So our audience actually hindi lang on video but also on audio, on podcast as well. So thank you. As Karlo has said, happy weekend and face next week with a confidence knowing that you are so loved by the Lord. Thank you. Happy anniversary, TNC. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Are you aiming to gain admission to UP, Ateneo, LaSalle, or UST? Partner with AHEAD, the leading and most awarded tutorial and review center in the country, and we'll get you to your dream school. Visit our website to know more. Are you aiming to gain admission to UP, Ateneo, LaSalle, or UST? Partner with AHEAD, the leading and most awarded tutorial and review center in the country, and we'll get you to your dream school. Visit our website to know more.